The Drum have finally been unlocked, which means I now have access to all the races again. And that got me thinking. Maybe it's about time I basically see, like, you know, if anything's basically changed, like, the races specifically, and, like, you know, how they basically, like, you know, are depicted in the world. So, I figured I'd basically do, like, a half episode where we're just gonna go, like, you know, basically make a whole lot of, like, you know, races, basically show off, like, you know, what they're all about now. Loading up. We'll be doing this quite a bit, but whatever. Alright, so yeah. At this point, I basically have access to all the races again, so... We have Yeeks, we have like the Orc Krog, we have the Ghouls and Skeletons. And I'll note that basically, like, you know, something I'm basically thinking about doing here is just like going through to, like, you know, check all these guys out to see like how they basically change, because, well, if you look at the hire here, notice that this guy now has like an experience penalty 0. And, you know, this is compared to, say, the Cornac, who has an experience penalty 0. Apparently recently they decided, like, you know, to, like, you know, rebalance all the races so they have, like, you know, more sane experience penalties. So the races that are, like, you know, a lot harder to basically play still have their experience penalties, but the ones that are, like, easier don't. And also basically a way to basically show off, like, all different, you know, races here. So why not? Most pick is a Berserker, and I won. Alright, so it's basically a hire. So, for those who don't know, basically, like, you know, each of like, the different races have, like, their own, like, sort of inherent, like, abilities. And, well, let's just see. So, the hires still basically have access to, like, you know, call upon the Highborn, which basically increases all damage by 11%. I can't remember if that's what these guys basically had before, but, that's an interesting little, like, you know, good, like, you know, all-around type of talent right there. Basically, like, you know, boost up your damage and, like, you know, reduce all damage. And it goes up with your magic stat too, so I guess if, like, you're a mage, it's like a very, very, like, good, like, you know, stat base to have. Overseer of Nations, so this, like, you know, increases their blindness immunity, increases sight range, increases existing information, heightens senses by 1. At Tower Level 5, you gain telepathy to all similar creatures in radius 15 for 5 turns. Alright, so yeah, it seems like these, like, guys have been, like, you know, adjusted a little bit, so, well, there's basically the hires. They now have, like, you know, blindness immunity, sight range increase, you know, all this other stuff, telepathy. That's actually kind of interesting. I want, like, this, like, you know, goes up basically as you, like, level 2, like blindness immunity and stuff like that, so that could be a very interesting talent now. Born in Magic, this basically gives you increased spell save and arcane resistance, so... Arcane resistance is, like, not very common, but, you know, it's not very easy to, like, get resistance for it, so... That's, like, an okay one to get, I guess, right there, Born in Magic. Highborn's Bloom. So activate some of your inner magic, use it to power your abilities. For the next few turns, all active talents will be used without resource cost. So that was basically the thing they had before, like, you know, everyone basically played the hires basically for. So basically, like, you know, you can, like, use this, like, you know, ability to, like, you know, cast stuff without, like, you know, having to worry about, like, you know, the resource cost. That would have been very good on my Marauder, by the way, because if I had, like, you know, Highborn's Bloom on my Marauder, I would have been able to, like, you know, use a lot of, like, my talents without, like, you know, any issue, so to speak. I assume, like, there still would have been, like, you know, standard cost, like, to sustain, so good and bad. And let's just see here. Do you see the experience penalty in here anywhere? I wonder. So, if I have a vision range of 10, I guess. I think that's basically a natural vision range. So, unless, like, you actually get the skill, I guess, like, you know, still 10. That makes sense, I guess. I don't see anything in here that tells me my experience gain, so I guess you just have to remember that, like the experience gain. Oh well, that's fine. So, there's the hires. Now, I guess I'll like make it just for a show of it, but I'll note that the Orcs are pretty much just the same as they basically were, like, you know, in the base game. I basically played like long ago. Orcs are essentially just all about the extra category point you basically get from them, so they don't have like any like, you know, racial talents like the other races. They just have like a single category point, like, you know, extra, which basically lets them invest in like, you know, other skills if you basically want to. I picked that race for the Marauder, by the way, because the Marauder basically has like, you know, the ability to like make use of like extra points pretty easily because they have like, you know, a lot of like, you know, shortcomings on their generic like points. Yeah, there's like the corner basically. So I should probably also note by the way as well, these guys have also like stat modifiers. I wonder if like this changed as well because the highest basically have like, you know, 11 life per like level. They have like, you know, 1 strength, 1 dexterity, 1 magic, 1 willpower. I think that's basically all the same as before. It's just the experience penalty that was adjusted for these guys here, and like, you know, I think some of the challenges got like, you know, redone as well. There's the Croc. Basically, these guys get access to like, you know, the extra category point. So yeah, basically these guys get like, you know, an extra talent point, and then the other ones basically when they get, you know, like, you know, usually get them. These guys get an extra like, you know, class and talent point. I wonder if like you get more like, you know, talents basically like the Cornax. I can't remember if I was basically getting more or less of them. Not that it really matters, but you know, interesting. Alright, well, this is like, you know, just for a show of it, I guess we'll like, you know, make a Cornac here. Can basically show them all off. Corn 1. I know with like the Cornac race, basically they're like, you know, they're optimal basically if you have like, you know, a lot of like, you know, generic space to invest in. I know for Berserkers you don't have a whole lot of like generic space to invest in, so it's not as like great for like, you know, playing Crocs on, but you know. Yeah, I think I have like an extra class point and an extra generic point for the Croc here, so that's interesting. Extra talent points. I'm actually okay with this. And I got like, you know, extra like, you know, category points, so hooray for that. Alright, so that's basically human races basically in the game showing off there a little bit. Now, I'll note that my like favorite race I guess in this game is the Shalorn. And those guys basically like, you know, when I basically last played them, they have like, you know, an experience penalty of like, you know, 35%. I believe now they've been brought like in like, you know, more in line with like the humans now, so they have like, you know, 0% like, you know, experience penalties as opposed to like, you know, 35%. And I'll note that one of the reasons the Shalorn were actually my favorites because of the experience penalty, because like, you know, it slowed down the game a little bit for them. I was never really a big fan of like, you know, the game being like, you know, as quick as it basically was for like, you know, leveling up your characters. So yeah, here's the Shalorn basically right now. They have like the experience penalty of like 0% as opposed to like, you know, 35%. Shalorn Elves have spent most of their ages blah blah. They have like their talents here. I can't remember if they have like if they have like, you know, a life per level of higher than 11, but you know, I actually can't like, you know, I can't remember if they had like, you know, 12 life or like 13 life or something like that. I think it was basically maybe the ogres had like, you know, they have 13. These guys have 13. The dwarves have like 14. Halflings have 12. I guess that's right. Maybe they had like, you know, 11 before, or maybe it got reduced, just like with their experience penalty. So let's go floor 1. We'll make ourselves basically a berserker here. Alright, so let's see what their talent space have done here. So, and yeah, look it up here right by the way. I now have like, you know, 2 and 1 generic points and like, you know, 2 class points. So the Crocs do indeed get more talent points now. So that's actually kind of interesting for them. I actually quite like that change for the Croc. It actually like, you know, helps to make them like a lot more like, you know, viable as a race to basically play. But let's see here, Gift of the Woods. So this basically like, you know, increases your healing mod and lets you like, you know, regenerate a little faster. I think that's basically the same as it basically was before. Maybe. Actually, no, I think this was actually changed, because it used to be that you healed up from, like, Gift of the Woods, rather than, like, you know, getting a heal mod from it. But, and look at this, life healed increased by willpower constitution, that seems to change as well. So, it looks like they actually went through and changed the towns here a little bit as well, to, like, you know, basically make us, like, you know, the race was a little bit better for, like, you know, all-around stuff. There's Verdant, basically you get, like, you know, nature and acid damage affinity. Interesting. I can't remember if they basically had that before, but that's kind of interesting for them to basically have, like nature and acid affinity. Guardian of the Wood, so that's basically the same as it basically was before. So disease immunity, blight resistance, all resistance. So you basically get a little bit tougher with the Shalorn. A nice all around, like, you know, just defensive talent. And then Nature's Pride. So this basically is, like, you know, the same as before. You basically summon 2 Trents. They basically, like, go around, like, you know, knocking things around for you, so pretty nice. So this is the Shalorn. Now I should probably note by the way as well. You haven't really, like, you know, seen it changed yet, but you know, we basically have, like, you know, the Wild Infusion down here. We have, like, the Healing Infusion. We have, like, the Regeneration Infusion. These basically apparently changed around with, like, you know, some, like, the other races. So with the Shalorn, for example, we'll basically be using Ruins. So we'll be, like, you know, noticing a little change down here in a moment. I really should be checking to see, like, you know, if these basically, like, you know, if the infusion and stuff like that change around at all, but, you know, whatever. Let's go a new game here. You know, one of the things that, like, you know, very rare to change basically in this game was the races, so I'm actually quite happy that they all got buffed a little bit, like some of the other races, because it used to be like you just played Ogre in this game, and that was basically it. Because, like, you know, the Ogres were, like, you know, overpowered. Or you played Shalorn because it's timeless. But, you know, yeah, it's good to basically see that the other races game buffed a little bit. Alright, so here's the Shalorn, just to sort of show them off. So these guys still have, like, their, like, reduced, like, you know, life of, like, you know, 1 to, like, you know, 9. They have, like, less strength apparently. They got the experience penalty of, like, 12. So as opposed to basically all these other races that have, like, experience penalty of 0. You know, the Shalorn basically are going to be the first race to have, like, you know, an experience penalty of, like, you know, 12%. I think that means that these guys basically level, like, you know, at, you know, 120% experience. So basically, like, you know, take, like, you know, an extra, like, you know, they take an extra mod, like, you know, 20% basically to level up these guys for the most part. Is what is basically, you know, telling you. Unless they change that around too, I have no idea, but, you know. That's basically how I sort of, like, you know, always remembered it. But anyway, here's the Shalorn, Berserker. So there's Grace of the Eternals. So basically, like, Grace of the Eternals, basically you put this on, and it basically gets you, like, you know, access to, like, you know, increased goal speed for 5 turns. So not bad. You got Magic of the Eternals, which basically increases your critical chance and critical strike power. So this, like, on the face of it, by the way, just look like they haven't changed at all these, like, talents here. So you become invisible and you take, like, too much damage. I think that's basically always the same as before. And then there's Timeless. So you reduce, like, you know, detrimental effects by 2, most cooling down talents by 1, and you increase the talent remaining of beneficial effects by 1. So essentially, like, you know, this is, like, you know, this was like your unstoppable, like, you know, extender for the most part, like, you know. You activate Timeless and basically, like, you know, it makes, like, you know, your other, like, you know, talents, like, your, like, bad ones go down, up, better ones go up. I don't think you can use Timeless on, like, you know, on, like, you know, Unstoppable anymore, because, like, you know, they sort of stopped that, but, you know, it's still a powerful skill. And yeah, note by the way, we basically have access to, like, you know, Blink and, like, you know, shielding here, so we got ourselves a Shower Afflictions rune now, a Blink rune, and, like, you know, the shielding rune. So it used to be back in the day, by the way, when you basically played the Shalorn, they basically had access to, like, you know, the like, you know, the damage shield for, like, their, like, you know, protection, as opposed to, like, regeneration rune. They'd have access to, like, you know, Phase Door, or in this case, access to Blink. And they didn't have, like, access to any, like, you know, sort of, like, you know, detrimental effect removal. So it looks like these guys have been changed around to have, like, you know, some nice little, you know, bit of protection here. I'm quite happy about that. So, very nice. I don't like the cooldowns, but you know, I like the setup basic for them. How the races have changed in a very good way, I think. But by the way, all right. So the Doom Elf. I wonder how much they changed at all because they're basically the DLC race, or like one of the first ones. Were they one of the first ones? They were basically like one of the first for Age of Ascendancy. I'm not really sure. Like, you know, Embers of Rage basically counts as like, you know, a DLC race. They're sort of like an expansion race. Alright, so here's a Doom Elf. Note the Doom Elf are basically very similar to Shalorn, so they basically have like, you know, same like, you know, -2 strength. They have like the same like, you know, +1 dexterity. They have like, you know, more constitution, which is interesting. More magic. They have 1 less willpower, and they have like, you know, one less cunning. And similar like life and like, you know, experience penalties and stuff like that. So, Doom 1. Here it is down here, okay? So, you got Haste of the Damned. Facing yourself out of the phase, teleporting you to a specific location. So, I'll note that something nice about the Doom Elves. They basically have like their sort of like emergency teleport ability here. So you can activate this up to twice within the same turn, but the second activation will not be instant. Afterwards, you stay out of phase. In the state, your defense is increased by 8, and all resistance by 8%. So basically, just like, you know, it's like a extra like phase door you basically have access to, like, you know, Haste of the Damned. Villains of the Doomed. So the tortures you had to endure on a Fear Escape have increased your resilience. Alternative effects basically last like, you know, less time. You get basically like, you know, less like direct criticals basically against you. And they have like a lower like critical modifier. So, you know, not bad. Corruption of a Dam, so you have an 18% chance to turn into a Druffledin for 5 turns when hit by a blow that does like a lot of damage. So instead of going visible, it's like, you know, the Shalorn basically do. You now have like, you know, a chance to turn into like a demon. It basically gives you permanent stealth, darkness damage is increased. That would have been nice for like the Writhing one, perhaps. You basically have non-physical damage. You deal above like, you know, 1 triggers a dark explosion. So basically, like, you know, damage on like, you know, attack. When you transform to the cooldown of haste, the Doom and Pitless are reset. So interesting. Basically, like you transform and like, you know, this gets reset over here, and this gets reset. So you launch a mental assault on a target. The assault increases the cooldown of any like already cooling down talents by 1. So basically, make them like, you know, take longer to cool down their talents. The duration of any magical, physical, or detrimental effects are basically increased. So basically, like, Pitiless is basically like reverse timeless for like the enemies. So you basically hit them with this, and like, you know, all their talents basically like, you know, go like, you know, longer cooldown. All their like, you know, effects basically get reduced. All their like, you know, negatives basically like get increased. And just like the like, you know, the Shalorn basically get access to like, you know, Shattered, Blink, Shielding. Yeah, note that it's like this ability here, you can basically like, you know, activate how you want to, so you can like here, for example. So, very interesting sort of like, you know, teleportation talent. So, I always liked, you know, this like ability, Haste of the Damned. It's a very nice ability. Alright, so, main menu. Let's take a swig of water. And next we're gonna go through the Halflings, which is like only one like, you know, race for the Halflings, but whatever. You know, I almost feel like they should probably make it so there's like, you know, 2 Halfling races, one for like, you know, the Nargles and one for like the other guys. The Eldoro. And I went to the wrong thing there, but whatever, let's just go to new game. I wonder I wonder what race would be my favorite now. I wonder. I said like the floor were my favorite race but as like partially because of the experience penalty. So now I wonder like which race basically has like the highest experience penalty, so to speak. It's perfect when by the way, these guys do have an experience penalty, halflings. And I should probably note that as well. Shalorn basically have experience penalty, DFuxa also have experience penalty. Halflings basically have like a little bit less than those guys, but not by a whole lot. These guys basically have like reduced strength, they have basically increased dexterity, constitution, cunning, luck. So here's the halflings. I'm already basically playing these guys right, with this run here, but whatever. Basically, there's luck for the little folk again. Just basically like increase your critical strike. So the idea of like luck for the little folks basically helps you make more offensive power, I guess, and also like increase your saves by a little bit. Who really cares about saves? You have duck and dodge, which basically makes you more defensive. So when you like take like a lot of damage, basically you can like just get a little bit of evasion for a little bit. That's usually only useful for like physical talents, but sometimes you'll run into like that rare or unique that basically like hits pretty hard, so not bad. Militant Mind, you always saw as well. This basically increases like your physical power and like mental power and like spell power. So along like increase like your saves and stuff like that, it also gives you like that power, which is nice. And then like the class tier talent, like Indomitable talent. Just basically, like, makes us like move like stun, dazes, and pins, and grant immunity to stun, dazes, and pins for like Q2 turns. So very, very nice. It's sort of like using like a movement infusion with like the halflings. So very nice indeed. And by the way, you can basically see down here we have like wild, healing, regeneration. So standard like stuff here basically. So there's their talents basically, so regeneration, wild, healing. All your stuff. Alright, let's go to the main menu. I guess we'll go for the dwarves next. Have a look at the Krog, not the Krog, the dwarves and like the Drem. The Krog are the other like giant race, don't really care about them right now. Now, I think the dwarves basically are very similar to like the other races in that they have like infusion and stuff like that, but I wonder here because they're actually one of the races that could actually have like runes basically as a start. That should be kind of cool to actually make it so like the dwarves were actually like off from like the other characters or like, other races basically. But anyways, here's the dwarves. Note that these guys apparently have no experience penalty now. So these guys used to have experience penalty before, but I guess they don't now, which is like nice. And they have like 14 life, which is like not bad as well. So, Dari. You can tell what game I've been playing recently. Alright, here's the dwarves. So, basically we have like, their talents up here. Resilience of the dwarves. So, basically it just increases their armor and armor harness. Spell, physical saves for 8 turns. I can't remember if they basically had this before, by the way. I think they didn't have like the physical saves or spell saves, but they didn't have like the armor hardness, so they were like pretty decent. They're resilient, of course. We got Stone Skin here. So when attacked in melee, you basically get like armor for like 6 turns, and you fully ignore the attack triggering it. So basically, you have the ability to like brush off an attack. Usually not the most interesting thing, but not bad. Power is money, so basically as like you have more money, the more like saves you basically get from it. So basically the idea of like power is money is you can actually get a lot of saves with the dwarves. So if you have like a lot of like money like stored up and you're not spending it, you basically get like more saves from it. And then stonewalking. So this was always like the interesting thing from the dwarves because they basically have like their own like sort of escape. You can use this basically to like go for like stones to like pass through them like as if they're like just like not there instantly, and you basically get like away from like enemies this way. So, very, very nice talents right there, as always. Okay, here's our character. And it looks like we still have access to, like, you know, our infusions here, so that hasn't changed yet, so whatever. Right then, main menu. So, there's basically dwarves. Let's go check out the Drem. Alright, so the Drem are basically one in like new race that basically like, you know, is picked up basically. Compared to the dwarves here, these guys basically have like a little bit less strength. They have like better dexterity. They have less constitution. They have more magic. They have less willpower. And they have the same cunning. So basically they have like, you know, different stats than like the dwarves basically. They have like 12 life per level and they have like experience per life 12% as opposed to like, you know, 0. So it's kind of odd to think that the dwarves and the Drem are basically related at all. I'll only say that it's just Shalorn and like, you know, the Doom Elves, but whatever. I guess they are sort of like, you know, byproducts of like, you know, a fouled up like, you know, birthing process, so there's that. Alright, so Drem 1, we'll get our Berserker again. Alright, so here's the Drem. Now, I'll note by the way, like, you know, someone actually suggested that the Drem are actually really good for the Riffing one because, like, they're, like, you know, Frenzy talent. Basically, during the Frenzy the first time, you can use a class talent that has no cooldown, but does if it's used twice. So, the idea here is that if you have, like, the resources basically to cast it, you can use, like, Frenzy to, like, you know, do, like, your talents basically, like, twice basically in a turn. Does not work for descriptions, talents that take no turn to use, passes, or talents that have fixed cooldowns, but whatever. Basically, here, like Frenzy, for example, if, like, say, like, I was basically investing in, like, stuff like this, for example, I guess I want to, like, back because, like, the cooldowns are, like, only 8, but, you know, let's see here. For something like Rush here, basically, if I was basically use, like, you know, Frenzy and I, like, use Rush, how does it basically work? I can use, like, Rush basically twice in a turn because I'd be able to, like, you know, rush something. It would basically, like, not be reset because, like, this talent here. And I could like rush something again and it go on cooldown after that because it basically has like, you know, a cooldown. It has resource cost. So it's a pretty cool talent, this one right here. I'll be looking at, like, you know, looking forward to basically showing off what this basically does later on. Whenever I get around to like doing like a run for Drems. Spike spins, go! This is basically like, you know, sort of like based off like what the like, you know, the Drem warrior basically do, like, you know, when you basically encounter the wild ones. So we're basically like, you know, hit by an attacker. You basically start dealing like black blood, basically like, you know, injures them basically with darkness damage. And you're empowered by the sight of black blood. For each bleeding creature in radius 2, you gain like, you know, all resistance limited to one creature. Interesting. So basically you get more like, you know, resilience when you basically are attacked. I'm not sure how the spike scheme will basically work, but that'll be something to basically check out basically when I get around to it. Alright, Faceless. So, your Faceless visage is puzzling and motionless, allowing you to more easily resist tricks like, you know, mind tricks, so basically get confusion immunity. That's not bad basically for his character because, like, you know, basically makes it so you can't be confused so easily. Sort of like the Eeks basically. And then from below it devours. So your affinity with things that dwell beneath the surface and you know, beneath the surface allows you to summon a hungry mouth. So basically the idea of like, you know, this is like, you know, it draws in foes to basically keep them away from you, I guess, for the most part. Basically this doesn't actually like, you know, hurt your enemies, so to speak. It's like, you know, keeps them away from you. So it's sort of like good like as like, you know, a mage like type of talent, which basically, you know, keeps the enemies at bay while you basically like, you know, hit them with like, you know, your spells. Many other stats will scale with level. Interesting. So it's still like, you know, other than like, you know, these like towns here, they're based like, you know, on your magic, they're based on like your constitution. But I guess like, you know, a lot of it's like based on your level as well. So it's probably still like useful as like, you know, top of like other races as well. Now, not probably with the drum, by the way. They actually are like one of like the characters that like, you know, they actually get like a different like, you know, rune scheme here, so to speak. So basically, get like, you know, shadow afflictions here. We get like blink, we get shielding. So we basically have like the arcane stuff basically here. All right, so that's basically them. You know, it's funny. So many races have been added to this game that like, you know, it's kind of like shocking. Like, you know, it's how like, you know, big this game basically is still at this point in time. It used to be this game basically had like, you know, 2 human races. It had like the halflings, it had the dwarves, it had like, you know, the Florin and like the Shalorn. It had the Yeeks. And that's basically pretty much about like, you know, all it basically had at that point, right? Then they had like the undead, they had like, you know, they had like the doom elves with like the, you know, forgotten cults. They had like, you know, added like, you know, the Drem with like, you know, forgotten cults. They had like the doom elves with like Ash of Orc. They basically added like the Drem and like, you know, the ogres. Well, not the ogres, but the Krog basically like, you know, the other like, you know, forgotten cults basically. Ogres were basically added at some point as well by like themselves, so that's interesting about them. Let's throw off the Yeeks, I guess. So, here's the Yeeks. I pretty much hate the Yeeks, by the way, because they have like that like experience play of like negative 15%, so they like flow like, you know, surveys fast. But you also kind of need to basically give them like that, like, you know, sort of like, you know, like sort of like bonus, because these guys need like a little fast, like, you know, keep up with like all the other races. But whatever. Let's play them and like show them off. Alright, so there we go, we got Dominant Will. So, basically, like, you know, the idea of, like, Dominant Will is let's say basically, like, dominate foes, like, you know, basically prevent them from, like, you know, killing you for the most part. Basically, like, you take control of them for, like, 6 turns, and when the effect ends, they basically die, like, you know, as a husk, so to speak. Interesting. So, targets with ranks at or above rare must be 8% below their maximum health to be controlled, will be invulnerable for the duration, and will break free of the effect without dying after 3 turns. So this effect cannot be saved against, but checks insta-kill immunity. So it's a cool like a little effect to Dominant Will, but you know, whatever. I like the idea that you can actually control like, you know, your foes basically, like, you know, rares and stuff like that as well. So interesting. Here's Unity, basically just gives you like, you know, confusion and like, you know, silence immunity, so not bad for that for Yeeks. Yeeks live fast and think fast and sacrifice fast, so cooking, they basically like, go a lot faster basically. And if your life basically falls below 3% after taking damage, you gain 1.5% of a turn. Cool. So yeah, I don't think Yeeks are basically a very squishy race, but you know, this actually helps them out a lot basically here, so cool. Very cool. And then way is to basically summon a bunch of like, you know, mind slayers basically help them out. So yeah, your Yeek waves of Urk. All the Yeeks fall away, which is both a global psionic link that unifies the whole Yeek race and a way of life. Your whole life is dedicated to serving the Yeek race. You feel compelled by a way to protect your race at all costs, even your own life. You have been tasked to vanquish Murgle, an abomination from the deeps, and to clear the rich tunnels before their blight spreads to the whole island. So here's our Yeek right here. And we have like the same like, you know, starting infusion and stuff like that, but whatever. The Yeeks haven't really changed all that much, I guess, but you know, it looks like they got a little bit changed there for like their talents, but you know, it's sort of like this window dressing to like, you know, buff them up a little bit, like, you know, just to keep them in line with like their races, I guess. And before I forget, basically, I was like, you know, do like a little bit more of like, you know, a deep dive into their stats there, the Yeeks. So let's do that right now. See, I know the EX basically about them. They basically have like, you know, reduced like constitution. They have like reduced life, by the way. So unlike basically like, say like the like, you know, the Shalorn here basically we have like, you know, reduced life like, you know, of like 1 life per level. They only get 9. These only get like 7 per level. So the thing about the EX basically is that they're actually like going like they're the squishy race basically. They're sort of like, you know, the challenge race, because they basically have like lower health basically to like, you know, make up for like all their powerful abilities. So they do have like, you know, high like willpower. They do have like high cunning, but they have like, you know, low strength, low dexterity, low constitution. So they're like, you know, a little bit difficult for that. They can also like breathe underwater a little bit, but you know they're not like completely amphibious. So there's that too. And they have like, you know, natural confusion reasons, because like why not? Because you know you gotta give them something basically to like, you know, make them like playable. Alright, here's the giants, by the way. So we have like, you know, ogres and Krog. So there's the ogres. Basically, these guys have like, you know, life level like, you know, 13 per level. So they're basically one of like, you know, the healthier races. They're not as basically healthy as like, you know, the dwarves, but you know they're not bad. Experience penalty of like 15%, so they take a lot longer to level than the other races. So I think it was the Shalorn base has like, you know, 12% here. The Halflings like, you know, have 10%. The Drum apparently have like, you know, 12%. And like the Eeks basically have like, you know, negative 15%, so they're a little faster than everyone else. But you know, the ogres here, high experience penalty for these guys, so they take a lot longer to like level these guys here. Alright, let's go like check out the ogres then. So much like the Shalorn, these guys basically start with like runes basically when they start out, so I'll be able to show off that, but you know, let's just show off the towns basically first. So you got Ogre Raft basically here. Basically like, you know, you increase like your like, you know, stun and like pain resistance for like, you know, a little bit. And like all your damage done is basically increased by a little bit as well. Now, what's really like good about the Ogre race is basically like your interaction with like, you know, inscriptions and stuff like that. So starting like Ogre Raft here basically, they have like, you know, whenever like you miss an melee attack or any damage you deal is used by damage shield or similar effect, you can miss an Ogre Fury, so up to 5 charges lasting 7 turns. Each charge basically grants like, you know, a critical damage power and critical strike chance. And that's basically whenever like you use like, you know, a future rune basically as well. So basically like this is like, you know, triggered by like your inscriptions by the most part. And it basically like helps you like boost up your critical ability, so that's nice. There's Crystal Constitution, so basically like it increases like your like, you know, spell saves, improves your constitution of your primary stat and infusions by like 50%. So basically this makes your inscriptions like better. And what's really important about this like ability right here, by the way, so at level 5 you can basically use like 2-handed weapons as like a 1-hand weapon in like your first hand. So basically like you wield like, you know, a 2-handed weapon like a shield, or like, you know, another like you know, 1-hand weapon or dagger as appropriate. And basically suffers like an accuracy penalty and like, you know, all this other stuff, but you know, whatever, it's still like, you know, awesome. But if you make yourself bigger, then like, you know, this becomes easier to wield anyways, so whatever. There's Scar Scripted Flesh again. So basically just like increases like your like, you know, when you basically crit, you have a chance to like, you know, reduce like your cooldowns of like your inscriptions and other saturated effects, so that's awesome basically. So basically you want to like build for criticals on like your ogres, because like, you know, you basically get like, you know, this ability here, like, you know, reduce like your inscriptions like, you know, a lot faster. Just writ large, so it's basically like, you know, grants you like you know, more like inscriptions that make use of basically at level 5. And basically like, you know, just like on its face here value, basically like, you know, for 4 turns your inscriptions and cooldowns cooldown twice as fast, so basically like, you know, you go through your cooldowns like faster on like the writ large here. Writ large is really like one of those towns that it's like, you know, it's either all or nothing basically, because like, you know, you like, you know, put 5 points basically into it, or like, you know, no points into it, because like, you know, that's basically what you're after, is like that extra like, you know, category point to like, you know, spend like an inscription slot if you basically want to. But whatever. And then you have like this stuff right here, blah blah. And if I just do a quick little check here, basically you'll see like, you know, there's like the same like, you know, runes basically for these guys as well. Alright, now. That's basically the ogre race. I wonder like how the Krog basically like measure up to like the ogres now, because they're the new race. How do the Krogs measure up to like the old master race, so to speak? And yeah, I let the ogres pretty much like consider like the master race for the most part, because like, you know, they're so powerful pretty much. But whatever. I actually helped to like, you know, design the ogres, by the way, just to throw it out there. And I guess I inspired the Krog, but whatever. Alright, so the Krog. So they basically are just like the ogres in that they have like that 50% experience penalty, but they have more like Constitution basically. So they have like +2 Constitution as opposed to like 0 right there. They have negative magic as opposed to like, you know, positive magic of the ogres. They have more willpower as opposed to like less willpower, and they have like, you know, less cunning as opposed to like more cunning of like the ogres basically. So that's what they're basically all about. So let's just go check out the Krog. So here's their ability. So Wrath of the Wilds. Basically can deal like damage to a creature while Wrath is active. You have an 8% chance, 100% for first creature each hit each turn to stun them for 3 turns. So basically they have like the ability like to stun stuff. Not very like, you know, that's a very like good like, you know, mage hunting talent I think right there. Chance skills with your Constitution and apply powers to the highest of your physical or mind power. So basically, like, you know, you want to basically build for like, you know, Constitution like, you know, Krogs, I guess. Break Infused Blood. This basically like, you know, boosts up your like, you know, stun resistance, fire resistance, and like, you know, you can also like do like fire damage against your attacks. You can activate this talent to change which trick aspect you're used to bring forth. So basically, gonna have like, you know, different aspects. So you can have like, you know, fire resistance. You have like, you know, say like acid resistance. You can have like, you know, earth, whatever. Changing your aspect requires common experience, so you may like do so after slaying higher enemies. Now, it's worth noting that basically, like, you know, Drink Infused Blood, when you basically like, invest like 1 talent point in this, you basically access like, you know, your weapon in the offhand. So this is like, you know, they're like, you know, sort of like special like perks for these guys. Basically, they can like, you know, do well like, you know, one-hand weapons. So you basically get that pretty like early on. That'll be cool basically to show off at some point. Feel Pain. So your body's used to pain. When you take like 20% damage or more to your life, one of your descriptions is taken off cooldown, infusion saturation removed. So basically, like, you know, it's basically like you're like, you know, cooldown. You're like infusing to like reset faster. Very similar to like, you know, the ogres, but you know, a little bit more like, you know, based on like how much damage you basically take. And then Drake Blood Strike. You create a zinger for you were created by a zinger for only one purpose: to wage war on magic. You strike the target doing like, you know, fire damage, silencing them for 3 turns. So honestly, basically, this is like, you know, ties into like, you know, your Drink Infused Blood. So basically, if you have like, you know, probably more like, you know, of that, basically it changes like, you know, cold and other stuff like that. And if a chance to basically silence like, you know, things, basically is nice. It's basically like silence like, you know, enemies so like they can't like, you know, cast spells, so always nice. Basically, this is like the mage hunting class, and it really does show. Blah blah blah. And of course, they start with like, you know, regeneration, wild, and healing. But more importantly, they start with like the Zinger follower. So they have like, you know, anti-magic basically on them right away. You know, it's worth noting just to throw it out there so you know basically can see this. Even though like you're basically like, you know, technically a Zinger follower, you still have to take the test, I guess, to become like a Zinger follower. Basically, come all the way up over here and talk to this guy up here. Basically, he'll be like, you know, you have to take the test, basically. And it should be like, you know, take the test and we'll talk again. Very, very interesting, you know, the Krog, but whatever. Alright, well. There's still basically like, you know, the undead and like the like, you know, Embers of Rage basically races to show off, so let's go show off them, I guess. Skeletons and the ghouls, the races that cannot use infusions, because they're basically undead. And they can't use infusions, the undead. Alright, so we have the ghouls first, I guess. So basically, like, the ghouls basically are interesting because they basically get access to, like, great poison resistance. They get bleeding immunity. They have like stun resistance. They have like fear immunity. They have special ghoul talents that let them like jump around, like rest and stuff like that. But they move a little bit slower because like that's the thing about them. So note basically about these guys here. They basically have a speed penalty, so they have like they have to like move like an extra for like everyone else. And they do get like more life as like a dwarf does, but this like this sort of a compensate for like this like speed penalty they basically have right there. High constitution, decent strength, low willpower, low cunning. Alright, so here's the ghouls. You basically have like, skeleton apparently here, so improves your skeletal condition, increasing your strength and dexterity, so not bad. I picked a ghoul, right? Maybe I picked the skeleton, not really sure. If I picked the skeleton, that's a little bit different, but Okay, maybe I picked the skeleton by accident right there, but whatever. I looked at the undead basically start like their like summon circle here of like this guy here. Oh, okay, I actually accidentally picked the skeleton over like the ghoul there. So basically here's like the skeleton, by the way. This will show off them first. We have access to like the usual like assortment of like runes for basically there. And then you have like these like talents here based on skeleton, so increases strength and dexterity by like 3 to 7, so basically boost up your stats. They have bone armor, which basically lets them like reduce damage to themselves with a damage shield. Resilient bones, basically resolve like detrimental effects to them. And reassemble, basically lets you refresh your bone to heal yourself. And level 5 basically lets you reassemble yourself, so you basically don't die immediately, so that's nice. Basically, it's like sort of like an on-demand, like you can't kill any like immediately type of talents, like similar to like the master basically has, and like Driftful. Whenever you hit like death, basically so to speak, for the first time, you basically like, reassemble into like new form so to speak, which is nice. Alright, well that's basically a skeleton, I guess. Like I said, I accidentally had like the skeleton basically like clicked there instead of like the ghoul. My bad. But whatever. Constantly going in and out of the main screen, you're basically seeing like a lot of the background art for this game. And I certainly did like a lot of like background art for like over the years, basically for this game here, as you can see. But alright, so that's basically the skeleton basically showed off right there. Basically they have like, similar like abilities to like the ghouls here, but they basically have poison immunity as opposed to like, great poison resistance. They both have bleed immunity, they both have like, fear immunity. These guys don't have stun these guys like can be stunned to skeletons, unlike the ghouls, who just have like resistance to being stunned to ghouls. So that's one of the weaknesses that the skeletons basically have, like stuns. These guys don't have to brief though, so that's why nice to know with them. For some reason, the ghouls still have to brief because like why not? And then these guys basically have access to like sort of like stats basically to like the ghouls, but they basically have like only 0 constitution as opposed to like +5. They have like more dexterity as opposed to like +1. They don't suffer from willpower cunning because why not? Look at that, 20% experience penalty on these guys. So these guys are obviously like the very slow learners of this game, so to speak. Odd. It might be skeletons who will become my favorite like race like going forward because like experience penalty. But who knows? Maybe like the the Krog or something like that. We'll see. Alright, let's click the right one right here, I guess. We'll pick the ghouls. And you can basically see like right here, basically. So, unlike the, like, these guys don't have a speed penalty like the ghouls do, so they basically move at like full speed. As opposed to the ghouls are basically like, have 20% like, speed balance to them. So, right one. By the way, the under basically start in the same place as like, each other. Basically in like this like Necromancer's lair right here. So yeah, crazy Necromancer. Nothing like new or like exciting about him, but whatever. And by the way, we still have like the same like things right here. War shout. I can't remember. Did War shout basically like exist like as the first tier talent for like the Berserkers? I mean, it's cool that they basically have like War shout earlier, but interesting. I guess that makes sense. I thought this like was like a tier 3 challenge or something like that, but whatever. All right, so let's look at the ghouls here. So, much like the skeletons, they basically have like an increased basically to like their primary stats. So this is being like strength and constitution, and unlike basically skeletons, these guys basically have like this ability to like basically reduce like damage below like 50%. So when you're basically investing in like this talent here, you basically increase like like the the ability to like not be like two shot, so to speak. Like well, you can be two shot, but you can never take the damage at like this like 50% more than your maximum life of this ability right here. So basically, the idea is like you can't be like one shot of like these characters, so you have to take like, a minimum damage on your ghoul before you can be killed. We have ghoul sleep, which basically lets us like leap up toward your target, and when you land, your ghoul speed is increased by a little bit. So it's like a mobility talent right here. We have Wretch basically right here. So basically, you've already seen this basically in the game, but when you're basically like rushing on the ground, you basically get to heal up a little bit better. You lose your detriment to your ghoul speed for a moment while you're basically in the Wretch. You basically deal like light damage to like enemies, so to speak, and you also like rip apart like their physical effects basically each turn. So basically enemies that like have like beneficial effects basically lose their like abilities, while like you basically lose your detrimental ones. So pretty nice. And there's Nah. I'll note that Nah, by the way, is basically always considered to be like a weak talent, but it looks like they like changed around here a little bit. So ghouls last for 2 turns and can use Nah, Ghoulish Leap, Stun, and Rotting Disease. Basically, the idea of like this right here is that like you basically kill something like Ghoul Rot and basically like races like ghouls basically from it, but they can never like it was never like really like useful like this like ability, but whatever. It's there, I guess. Whatever. Ghouls in a nutshell. Whoops. Well, I saved my game for like no reason, but whatever. I should probably note, by the way, that like even though this is a roguelike, you can basically like play like a sort of like difficulty mode that basically lets you save your game whenever you want to. And that's like where that save like game basically comes into play. Alright, so I'll note this point, by the way, that we're basically jumping back in here because even though I'm basically showing off all the races, I've only shown off the races for like the Age of Ascendancy campaign. And we still have the Embers of Rage campaign with the Orcs, so we still technically have 3 more races to basically show off. All I have to do is basically go to the Orcs of Embers of Rage here. And there we go. We got basically the Orcs, the Croc Yeti, and the White Hoof. And all these guys basically still have their experience penalties basically on, so that's interesting, but whatever. Alright, so here's the Orcs. These guys basically have like reduced like magic, but they basically have like increased like stats and everything else. They basically have an experience penalty on them because like why not? So Orc 1 Berserker. Alright, so here's the Orcs. They basically have like their Orc's Fury to basically start off with, so basically like, you increase your damage by like every enemy basically see in front of you, up to a max of 5. So basically like, the more enemies are basically on this field, the more like damage you basically do with this character. You have Hold the Ground. So basically like, when your life goes below like 50%, you basically like get like a clear of like 1 mental debuff, and like you can increase like physical save. So basically more damage basically take with this character, the more like you basically like more determined basically get, so to speak. There's Skirmisher. So basically like, you roll and defeat your foes, giving you like damage resistance for like 2 turns each time you kill someone. So the more you kill like the Orc, the better like you basically get, so to speak, as you go on. And you basically get like passive increase to all damage penetration by the 7%. So you basically like will basically penetrate people's like damage a lot easier, which is nice. And then Pride of the Orc. So this is like a nice little like keep yourself alive chump. It says heal up like your detrimental effects basically. Heal up like a little bit of life. This is kind of like an extra like ability to like remove like stuff you don't want on yourself, so to speak, which is nice. It's kind of like a meld of like healing infusion, like wild infusion, so to speak, but without the like damage reduction or the like disease immunity, so removal, so to speak. Whatever. Really, probably Orcs like what like should have been like everything else, so to speak, but whatever. Alright, so here's the Orcs, so to speak. They're basically like playing against like guys like tunneling in right now. So yeah, basically like, this will be a fun. We basically get like back to the Embers of Rage campaign, so to speak. So much like the other races, these guys get like standard like regeneration, wild, and healing, and that's like what they're basically all about. It'll be fun when I basically jump back in with the Orcs, I think. But that'll be for another time. Not just yet. Right then, who to show off next? I guess we'll go to the Croc Yeti guest next, so we'll show off them. So yeah, there's the Orcs. Here's the Croc Yeti. So these guys basically are like they're sort of like the ogres, but they're like less like big, I guess, as them. They basically have access to like high strength, low dexterity, high constitution, low cunning, a little bit higher willpower. They have a little bit more like health than like the Orcs, but not that much more I guess. So Croc. You should probably note, by the way, if you press like Arcane Blade like these guys. Let's just like go Arcane Blade like these guys here. Another, if you like pick up like the magic classes, they like remove like inscriptions for like a Master's Ruin. So I'll show it off I guess now. And by here like the Yeti taunts here, so basically this gives you like the ability like to encase like enemies in like an ice block when you basically attack, which is nice. And basically pierce through ice blocks a lot easier, so that's nice. This actually makes this like you like really benefit like place like a Wormbreaker or something like that, because you can basically turn something to ice, basically it's like you pop in with like attacks basically through the ice, not be like breaking the ice, but damaging themselves instead. There's thick fur that basically gives you a little bit of cold resistance, a little bit of physical resistance, and like magical save, so not bad. There's resilient body, so that basically whenever basically hit by a detrimental effect, your body will react by like healing you a little bit, which is like nice. Mind weave. So basically you sacrifice a little bit of your Yeti brains, sort of like blast things like mind damage, which is nice, and confuse them. So hooray! No probably is like a very powerful talent because if you're like in like the thick of it, so to speak, it basically confuse a whole lot of foes all at once, and like damage them as well. And apparently, Croc basically start over here in like the markets, so that's interesting about them. And much like before, these guys basically start like regeneration wild. No power is their healing infusion is basically replaced with the Mana Search Ruin, so they don't have access to like the healing if they're basically playing like a mage class these guys. But regeneration wild, not bad. Alright, one more race basically to show you guys, and that'll be it for this episode, I think. But it's nice basically to see like how things basically change along. So it looks like they basically changed a lot of like the standard races in like the Age of Ascendancy campaign, and it basically makes it like all those races basically have like 0% like experience like penalties now, as opposed to like what they basically had before, like 35% basically like the floor, 10% like the higher, stuff like that. They didn't change around the Emerald Rage campaign though at all, so these guys like the level is slower, I guess, but that makes sense, I guess. The Orcs are always considered to be like sort of stupid, so it sort of makes sense that they basically have like penalties basically to like leveling up. And here's the White Hoof. Let's go Arcane Blade and hoof it. And by the way, these guys are like very similar to like the undead basically from the original campaign, so they basically have like silence resistance as opposed to like their stuff. They have bleed immunity, they have like fear immunity. So standard stuff right there. They don't have poison immunity, these guys though, so they can be poisoned if they want to. They have no need to breathe, which is like very similar to the skeletons. And they basically have like their abilities like as you see listed right there, but we'll show them off in the game in a moment. These guys have like high strength, they have like decent constitution. They have like good magic, lower willpower, lower lower dexterity, okay cunning. 14 life per level, which is nice. So these guys have like a little more like health than like the Croc Yeti as well as the Orcs. Of course, they're like the undead, right? So they sort of need it, I guess, for that reason. But whatever. All right then, let's just play. And here we go. They have white hooves. So it's basically like it's very similar to like the undead and like the ghouls. They basically have like a stat increase to like their primary stats, so strength and magic. Each time you move, you get a charged death momentum, and basically increase your movement speed by 20%. And like basically the idea here is like you basically increase your movement speed by like a lot by moving around. They have dead hide, so basically like you're under stress. So each charge death momentum also increases like a 5 damage in first 1. So what's really interesting about like the white hooves is that they have like basically talents to basically interact with each other, like similar to like, say the Krog, but it's very like basically like all these like, basically do it, so to speak. So basically like you build up like death momentum of like the white hooves here. You basically have like dead hide, which basically gives you like a 5 damage reduction. You have lifeless rush here. So you summon your undead energies to instantly build up a death momentum to its maximum possible charges. The effect will only start to increase after 3 turns, and each addition to death momentum mode basically gets you like all damage. So basically, like, the idea of like the white hooves, they build up a whole lot of like their racial talents, like basically making like sort of like powerhouses. And an essence drain, just like the only thing that isn't like based on death momentum, but whatever. Basically, send out a wave of darkness. It'll basically like drain a part of like left end, so basically things basically hits. Increase the duration before it next like charge the death momentum, but is used by 6. So it's like it interacts with it, but in a different way. Only use when you have a death momentum effect and like skills for like your magic. So that's what it basically does. And yeah, these guys are the same places as the Croc, by the way, so... Now, note about these guys for talents here. They basically lose access to the phase door in order to get, like, the Mana Surge, so they basically have, like, you know, Shadow Affliction, Shielding, and Mana Surge, basically, now. It used to be, by the way, like, the past games, like, you know, the phase door was basically given up as opposed... Or not given up, but, you know, they basically, like, they didn't have Shadow Affliction, so they basically, like, you know, they just kept their phase door and, like, their, like, you know, Shielding Rune. But with this race here, basically, now, with, like, you know everyone basically have, like, you know, free inscription slots, they are now basically giving up the phase door, which, like, you know, sort of makes sense, because they already have, like, you know, phase door in a lot of these, like, you know, magic classes. Alright, well. That's basically all the races, basically, of Maj'Eyal. And, like, you know, I like to see, like, you know, that they basically change up some stuff, like, you know, made it so, like, everything's a little bit different now. You know, I hope you guys basically find this is interesting for the most part, because some stuff basically changed. But other than that, I hope you guys basically enjoyed the video, and take care.